We begin with Mika and Joe and Rachel. Trouble in paradise, it seems, over there at MSNBC. What do you know? And it has a little something to do with, well, Joe and Mika saying that they were willing to make amends, that they wanted to at least talk to Trump because, you know, she's channeling her dad or something, as though Trump's North Korea. Listen.
Joe and I went to Mar A Lago to meet personally with President-elect Trump. It was the first time we have seen him in 7 years.
Oh, you see, there was this standoff, and everybody at MSNBC kind of liked that, enjoyed that. That was part of their identity. And now they don't really know what to think because two of their heroes that ran the whole morning programming thing for like 3 or 4 hours, or God knows how many hours they were on television every day, they went down and kissed the ring. I mean, we had to hear Rosie O'Donnell get all upset about that. Well, apparently behind the scenes, Rachel Maddow is also really, really upset about that. This is a new article in the Daily Mail. The title being, MSNBC descends into civil war. Didn't I tell you this was happening? As Rachel Maddow turns on Morning Joe host for, quote, bending knee to Donald Trump. Yeah, that little trip down to Mar A Lago, that did not go over so well. Let's go to the story itself. According to the Daily Mail, it was that trip, right? That trip down to Mar A Lago that really sparked all this tension, a whole lot of tension, according to the report, in the teams and in many of the stars. They see both Joe Scarborough and Mika Brzezinski as opportunistic and with very low self-respect and forgetting their values of being journalists and independence and integrity, said a journalist who has worked at MSNBC for 15 years. Speaking on the condition of anonymity, I don't like that. I really don't like that, but whatever. This journalist made it clear that the problem has been that Morning Joe has been pivoting from calling Trump a fascist and an admirer of Adolf Hitler to having a cordial meeting with him to figure out coverage going forward. Quote, they have lost a lot of credibility. Rachel Maddow is pissed at them, as are other presenters like Chris Hayes and Ari Melber. They are so frustrated. MSNBC disputes the report, claiming that Maddow hasn't said anything on air or off air about Scarborough and Brzezinski meeting with Trump. Any insinuation otherwise is merely speculative. This is what the MSNBC spokesperson told the U.S. Sun. Okay, all right. Well, there's a lot of trouble in paradise, right? Because the company's getting spun off by one said Comcast, which realizes it really doesn't want to be in this cable business. I mean, not when you get to deal with the headache of Joy Reid, for goodness sakes. Rachel Maddow once a week. For what, $25 million? They lowered her from $30 million. And of course, the whole Morning Joe crowd, which seems to be having this whole civil war play out in real time on live air. And there are like factions, because you get this one guy who works for the Atlantic, and he would go on the morning show there, and he said a little something that kind of ticked everybody off the other day, and this kind of helped spill over, as we said, onto the live airwaves. Let's take a listen.
Well, just given what one sees on camera, if you're too drunk for Fox News, you're very, very drunk indeed. So that's alarming. In 1989, President George H.W. Bush nominated John Tower, senator from Texas, for Secretary of Defense. Now, Tower was a very considerable person, a real defense intellectual, someone who deeply understood defense, unlike the current nominee. And it emerged that Tower had a drinking problem. And when he was drinking too much, he would make himself a nuisance or worse to the women around him. And for that reason, his nomination collapsed in 1989. You don't want to think that our moral standards have declined so much that you could say, let's take all the drinking, all the sex.
So David Frum is trying to insinuate that somehow Pete Hegseth doesn't have the character, et cetera, in order to become defense secretary. That's also anonymous reporting. All anonymous reporting. They apparently got like 7 people from Fox to anonymously go on record. Not really on record, right? If you're anonymous, to give this report about apparently his alleged indiscretions vis-a-vis alcohol. So look, I've told you guys before, I didn't used to, go to bars with Pete Hegseth, and certainly, didn't hang out socially in that sense, but worked with him a lot and never saw that. I mean, just never, ever saw that. He always struck me as a pretty stand-up guy, but whatever. So this little thing happens, right, on MSNBC, and they kind of freak out. Like, Mika later on was like, wait a second, oh, please, we want to apologize to our friends at Fox, because this guy David just slammed all of Fox by saying, how drunk do you have to be? Like, how drunk? Okay, here we go. How drunk is too drunk for Fox? And so it just didn't go over well. Understandably, like with the anchor, it shouldn't, like it's just not civil. And so they said something, and this guy is trying to insinuate that it's fearful, that they're fearful of the Trump administration or Fox or whatever. And they didn't appreciate this. I'm just wondering like how much he's in cahoots with all the other people, the Joy Reids of the world, the Rachel Maddows of the world, that really don't like the fact that Mika and Joe are trying to move on. Look, they're, let's be honest, total opportunists. Like that's all they are. They see the handwriting on the wall and they want to jump on the train as it leaves the station. Whereas the others, oh, they're just mired in their misery, total misery, and they intend to stay in their misery. And anybody who dares to like maybe be happy or optimistic about the future, because why wouldn't you be right about now? God help you. Anyway, they kind of reacted poorly to it. They had this little thing I showed you yesterday on the show, but take a peek if you're just catching it now.
Point of personal privilege.
So yesterday we had a good friend of ours on the show, and a guy who's been a guest for some time, a guy who he knows, he's been one of my heroes for years now, a great writer, David Frum. He writes for The Atlantic. David came on the show yesterday, and we're having a good conversation. But we were talking about the Fox News employees that actually talked to Courtney Kuby and other people at NBC News and said that he'd been drinking too much there. And it was devastating.
Concerned.
It was a devastating report. And David flippantly said, was joking, he said, if you're too drunk for Fox News, you're very, very drunk indeed.
Oops. Did I cut them off too early? Did you guys want to hear the rest of it?
Point of personal privilege.
So yesterday,
Here we go.
apologize.
No,
She simply said it was too flippant. Now,
Okay, so here we go.
we disagree with Fox News, but there's some good people over there, including, of course, those talking to NBC News about their concerns. This got turned into a column and a headline that said that, well, let's see, what was the headline? The sound of fear. No, that wasn't the sound of fear. That was the sound of civility. And saying that Mika had apologized. Mika didn't apologize.
No,
She simply said it was too flippant. Now,
and you know what? Like, this is a weird world where I'm like, look, they did the right thing. Like, Mika and Joe did the right thing. It was too flippant. And it's wrong to like label an entire organization as a bunch of drunks just because you don't like what side of the aisle they're on. For goodness sakes, let's be civil. But there is a group of people out there, and a lot of them are at MSNBC. Some of them are at CNN. There's a group of people out there that are so wedded to their ideas and wedded to this hate that they're not ready or able or capable as human beings to move on. Well, the viewers have. The ratings are like really bad. In fact, Rachel Maddow recently got her numbers and she got beaten by Bob's Burgers. I'm going to have to watch this show on Adult Swim. So her numbers are really bad. And so they don't know what to do. You know, I've been predicting this all along. The end of media, the end of that kind of media, meaning legacy media. Part of this is in our report, investinmaga.com. Go over and check it out. Invest in Maga, totally free. Rob and I from 76 Research, we created 76 Research. This has been like a long-standing passion of me to have a financial research company that was just completely transparent and honest and not sort of on the take for this, that, and the other. In other words, we make recommendations for you, but we don't get anything for that other than, you pay $1 a month for the 76 report. And if you get a portfolio on top of that, I think once you move on to the $9.95, it works out to an additional $22 a month. None of this is expensive. The whole goal is to try and bring good market advice to as many people as we possibly can. So this doesn't cost anything. Just go over and check out investinmaga.com, because one of the themes here, in fact, is this changing technology, is the reality that there are new times ahead and there's going to be winners and losers in this fight. One of the winners is going to be, you know what we're doing over here. We're streaming media. This is the winning future for media. MSNBC, all of those cable things, they're done. They're over.